Second's not part of the plan.
Red Bull gives you wings, unless you're the second driver, in which case it gives you stress, media slander, and an all-expense-paid vacation back to Toro Rosso. Or worse, retirement.
He's going to try and dive down. The inside, they have crashed. They've gone into it. And the podium that looked a certainty.
I think he just runs into the back of him as he pulls to the right.
He does.
Mirror spitting image.
Turning, and it was over that curve. It took a lot of him. Did he go upside down?
Red Bull Racing, the powerhouse team that's won more trophies than Verstappen has facial expressions. Since their F1 debut in 2005, they've become home to some of the biggest talents in racing, and also a rotating cast of poor souls who have the audacity to not be Sebastian Vettel or Max Verstappen.
How dare you stand where he stood?
As Max found the papayas slowly closing in, he and the other drivers warned the team that the car wasn't performing. Did the engineering team agree and try to change the car? They did not, and instead hid behind a generational talent and his ability to extract speed out of a potato. Toto Wolff is lurking, and if Max does want to leave Red Bull behind, most teams are more than willing to make room.
I don't know.
An engineer.
In 2014, Red Bull Racing gave a young Russian driver a shot at glory. And by 2016, he was back in junior varsity, lost his seat, his girlfriend, and allegedly his will to make eye contact.
This is the worst day of my life.
The worst day of your life so far.
If you've watched Formula One for more than 5 minutes, you've probably asked yourself, why does Red Bull keep sacrificing talented drivers like they're trying to get rid of some sort of weird energy drink curse?
There's no such things as curses. It's a total myth, okay?
This won't be the full team history video, so forgive me for not starting at the beginning, even though you know I'd love to drool over Coulthard for a while. Today, we're talking about the second seat curse. Formula One's most toxic situationship, or how to be used by Christian Horner but in a more public and shameful way. Let's find the root of the curse, and unfortunately for that young Russian I mentioned, it kinda starts with him. Daniil Kvyat is the motorsport equivalent of a guy who walked into a restaurant, sat down to order food, and was thrown out because someone more famous wanted his table.
Let's put a couple tables together. I'm not sure that they'll let us. Oh, they should. I own the place.
It wasn't bad. In fact, when he was first promoted to Red Bull in 2015, he was Russia's most promising F1 driver. Okay, he was Russia's only F1 driver, but still promising. On track, Kvyat had raw pace and wasn't afraid to get aggressive, sometimes too aggressive. He was forcing the car up the grid, but off track, Daniil was chill, super grounded. He gave off big guy who listens to techno at 6 a.m. while fixing his car in the driveway energy.
What the fuck?
People in the paddock liked him, and so did fans, even if they never got to see much of his personality. Mostly because Red Bull didn't keep him around long enough to get a Netflix edit. The engine was struggling to perform, but Kvyat took every opportunity to make points and a name for himself, even if that name was Torpedo.
Came like a torpedo.
Well, it's racing.
Racing, but
He became the second youngest podium driver ever. He outscored Ri-KIKIKI-ardo and made it to 7th in the Drivers' Championship for his first year on the holy seat of Red Bull Racing. Things were looking great. He was scoring push points and money, and then it all came crashing down. Literally.
Sort of a sore back from that, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was just that bit of oversteer,
Yeah,
right?
the impact.
He's on the right line, he locks up a bit on the front. Oh, he's just lost the rear on the mid-corner.
From Kvyat. Kvyat's going to have a go into...
The 2016 season didn't start how he hoped, but it quickly got worse. In the 2016 Chinese Grand Prix, Kvyat hit Sebastian Vettel directly into another driver, leading to the famous clip where Vettel named him the Torpedo. He then crashed into Vettel twice at the following Russian Grand Prix.
To Sebastian Vettel, that's why Ricciardo had to take avoiding action.
so he locked his right front, under rotate as they call it. It's not going to be him. Is it going to be him again? It is him again!
Kvyat must have thought this was a real low point. At least he still had his job. Nope, that was going to Max Verstappen. At least he still had his wife. Nope, that was also going to Max Verstappen. But he still had his daughter. Nope, that was all. Babyface Verstappen was promoted for the next race, while Kvyat was demoted back to Toro Rosso, and never fully recovered. This was the first public execution of the second driver, and the blueprint for every Red Bull demotion since. While we continue with Red Bull, Kvyat's story ends here, spending a year in reserve at Ferrari, cause yeah, that was gonna work out. He tried endurance and NASCAR, proving once again Russians are just drunker Finns without the talent.
I'm just here to have fun.
Starting off, a driver who knows how to spell Daniil right. Daniil Ricciardo is the human equivalent of the sunshine emoji. Big smile, big charisma, and absolutely massive talent. On the track, he was daring, infamous for his late-breaking overtakes that made fans cream themselves every chicane.
He's going to have a little go down the inside. Bottas has seen him coming, had to take to the curb. Ricciardo, sensational move from Daniil Ricciardo.
He won 7 races for Red Bull, took down a 4-time world champion in Sebastian Vettel, and helped usher in the post-Vettel era at the team. He was a high-level athlete.
I'm a high-performance athlete.
And possibly a driver championship contender one day. Fuck the tall poppy syndrome so many Aussies bitch about when they wanted to be a tradie forever. Off the track, Daniil was the guy. Netflix wanted him. Fans loved him. If Formula 1 was a high school, Ricciardo was the prom king who also played varsity and still invited the band kids to sit at his lunch table. He had the energy Red Bull markets itself on. Fun, fearless, likable. But none of that matters when the guy across the garage is Verstappen. By 2018, Max was a rising star and Red Bull's golden child. Despite Ricciardo having more wins that season, it became increasingly clear that the future was Max.
Future's now, old man.
Daniil started noticing the imbalance. More attention, more upgrades, more faith being placed in the 20-year-old phenom.
Exactly.
So Ricciardo made a bold decision. He left. Not for Ferrari, not for Mercedes. He left for Renault. He walked away from a penthouse party because the vibe was off and headed straight into a trap house because the girl who asked had a famous last name.
You are heading down a dark path.
That dark path is my driveway.
At Renault, Daniil found himself surrounded by optimism and press releases, but not podiums. It was a decent move financially, but performance-wise, pain. Still, he smiled through it all. That's who he is.
Beneath this smile, I'm in awful pain!
When he finally left Renault for McLaren in 2021, we all thought, this is it, Danny's back. Except he wasn't.
Daniel, is the car okay? I'm okay.
McLaren's car was allergic to his driving style. It didn't respond to his braking technique, and no amount of charisma could fix understeer. He did snag a glorious win at Monza, but that was it. The rest of the time, he was consistently outpaced by Lando Norris and visibly losing confidence. For a guy whose identity was built on vibes, this was an identity crisis. Then the full circle moment. Red Bull brought him back. Sort of.
All right, well, I've returned.
In 2023, Daniil returned as a reserve driver. Subbed in at AlphaTauri after Nick DeVry was booted mid-season, and just when we thought he might mount a comeback, he broke his hand in a crash at Zandvoort.
Oscar Piastri loses the car.
To unsettle the car a little bit, and then he pings into the wall.
Bizarre.
I also my hat.
The universe said, "You want the second seat again? Ha! Cute." He came back. Again. He gave it everything. And what did he get? Dumped. Again. This time with no ceremony. Just gone. He found out after the race, but had to keep quiet for days. No send-off. No thank you post. No goodbye message from the team account. Just a lonely blue heart emoji comment on his own Instagram. Cold.
The range of options for him are so extreme. He could either find himself Red Bull racing seat or back to the farm in Perth.
Now he's teamless. Unless Cadillac signs him, his career might have just ended in a practice session. He deserves better. I would say he shouldn't sweat it, but athletes sweat.
Athletes sweat. Sweat, baby. Ki-ki-ki.
Daniil Ricciardo gave Red Bull some of his best years and got ghosted like a bad Hinge date. It's almost poetic. The guy who smiled through every bad weekend was finally left without a reason to smile at all.
I don't know if I want to say it, because it's too vulnerable. Like, ultimately, is it worth the risk, you know?
The second victim of the cursed seat is one we will not forget soon. Ki.
Pierre Gasly!
Pierre Gasly's chapter in the cursed second seat is less of a motorsport career and more of a tragic French novella with DRS.
C'est l'histoire de Sacha et Dani qui partagent un appartement en France. Elles ont un voisin.
Pierre Gasly is an F1 fever dream. Fast, charming, and constantly underappreciated. Before he ever set foot in the second Red Bull seat, Pierre was already a standout at Toro Rosso. He scored a shock 4th place in Bahrain in 2018 and showed he could punch above his car's weight. That earned him the call up in 2019 to replace Ri-KIKIKI-ardo at Red Bull Racing. Huge opportunity, huge pressure, huge Max-shaped shadow waiting on the other side of the garage. Pierre's driving style is smooth, calculated. He's not going to kamikaze into a corner like a rookie, but at Red Bull that wasn't what they needed, or wanted. They needed someone who could match Max's aggression turn for turn. That's not Gasly. And off track, Pierre's soft-spoken, more emotionally driven. He wears his heart on his sleeve. In a world of PR-coached robots, he's refreshingly human. But the Red Bull racing machine isn't built for humans. It's built for results.
For a man who had 2 big crashes during pre-season testing, it's taken him a while maybe to get his confidence back. It completely snapped on him, Paul, and he was heading to that wall before he could do anything about it.
Gasly struggled immediately, constantly behind Verstappen in both qualifying and races. Every weekend felt like a test, and he was failing in front of the whole paddock. Instead of mentoring him or giving him time to adjust, Red Bull pulled the ejection handle mid-season.
Ejectocito, cuz!
They sent him back to Toro Rosso, publicly demoted like a medieval knight stripped of his armor and told to fetch ale for the real warriors. And yet, Gasly didn't fold. He responded the only way he knew how, by fighting.
I envied no man, but you wrecked everything.
Quit standing up for yourself.
Gasly rebuilt himself brick by brick. He claimed his first F1 podium just a few months later in Brazil, beating Lewis Hamilton to the line in a drag race to P2. And in 2020, in one of the most emotional Grand Prix moments of the decade, he won the Italian Grand Prix in Monza, AlphaTauri's first win since Vettel in 2008. It wasn't just redemption, it was resurrection. In his personal life, Gasly was dealing with more than just pressure. In 2019, he lost his best friend, Antoine Hubert, in a horrific Formula 2 crash at Spa. The trauma of that, combined with the humiliation and frustration of his Red Bull stint, forged something in Pierre. Not bitterness, but purpose.
Sometimes you need to take the decision, maybe not, make happy everybody, but you need doing.
He began driving like he had something to prove, not to Helmut Marko, but to himself.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Despite his success, Red Bull never really opened the door again. They let Albon try. Then they let in Perez. Gasly was still scoring more points than the second-seat drivers in a worse car, but was somehow never considered. It was clear. The door was closed, and maybe locked. He finally broke free by signing with Alpine in 2023, a move that was equal parts new beginning and middle finger. But Alpine's been a mess. More team bosses than podiums, internal drama that could rival an episode of Succession. It's not the dream Gasly had in mind. Still, Pierre remains consistent, smart on strategy, mature in his media. He's grown from the kid who got booted to a leader who can extract the most from a midfield car. But if you look into his eyes during interviews, there's still a flicker of that Red Bull wound, a sense that something huge slipped through his fingers. Gasly may not be cursed, but he's definitely been haunted by what could have been, by what he gave, and by what Red Bull never gave back.
Oh, and down the inside goes Albon! Oh, Alex Albon!
Alex Albon's Formula One story is like casting Paddington Bear in Gladiator. Soft-spoken, incredibly kind, and yet somehow thrown into the most cutthroat environment in motorsport. The Red Bull's second seat. Born in London, but racing under the Thai flag, we love a mama's boy. Albon came up through the same junior ladder as Charles Leclerc and George Russell, and despite being dropped from the Red Bull Junior program back in 2012, he clawed his way back to relevance with some stellar drives in Formula 2. He was quick, consistent, and most importantly, marketable.
Getting past, that's fine. I'll get through on the grass. I've been going through front wings like no tomorrow. I'm the Asian Tom Cruise, so give me a follow.
Red Bull loves a comeback story, especially one with Southeast Asian appeal. Hi, Thai beverage investors. So they brought him back into the fold for 2019. But instead of getting time to learn the ropes at Toro Rosso, Alex was halfway through his rookie season when they yanked him into the big seat. Why? Because Gasly was faltering and Christian Horner needed a new sacrificial lamb to hand to Max Verstappen. And Albon? He handled it with grace. He was still green. His racecraft could be scrappy, but the pace was undeniably there. He could fight midfielders with ease. But getting close to Max? That was like trying to arm wrestle a hydraulic press. Then came the heartbreaks. Brazil 2019. Albon was in position for his first podium. Hamilton sends him spinning in a late race dive. No penalty, no justice, just Alex's wide disbelieving eyes. Austria 2020. He's passing Lewis again for P2. Contact. Again. Spins. Again. The curse of the second seat was dragging him down. Albon didn't complain, didn't blame, just nodded and said, "I'll do better," and went back to work. But F1 is a results business, and by the end of 2020, the whispers became shouts. He's not doing enough. Off track, Alex leaned into who he really was. Fun, open, and a bit of a goofball. His social media showed a driver at peace with himself. He dyed his hair red and joked about becoming fast again. He started streaming games, engaging with fans, and becoming a personality beyond the paddock. In the era of Netflix and social media metrics, Alex was finally allowed to shine. After losing the seat in 2021, Alex became Red Bull's reserve driver. In 2022, he joined Williams, a team rebuilding, a car far from competitive, and Albon became their star. He didn't just beat his teammates, he transformed the car. He out-qualified Latifi every single race and started dragging that tractor into Q3 like he was auditioning to be the Stig on Top Gear. Now, he and Williams are gearing up with another ex-Red Bull Jr. to try and take over the midfield. Albon may not have gotten the redemption podium Gasly did, but he got something arguably better. Peace of mind. The confidence that he's more than a seat warmer, that he's not defined by Max Verstappen's slipstream. Because sometimes, surviving the curse is the biggest win of all.
It's Sergio Checo Perez!
Now let's dive into the man who held on to the Red Bull's second seat longer than anyone since Ri-KIKIKI-ardo, and did it with a smile, a sombrero, and maybe a little tequila in his system. Sergio Checo Perez is living proof that even winning second in the World Drivers' Championship in your company's only ever 1-2-1 championship win isn't enough to save you from the curse. Checo's F1 story before Red Bull was already full of chaos. He bounced from Saub to McLaren during one of their bad streaks, then found a home at Force India, which became Racing Point. He was the king of midfield chaos, consistently outperforming his machinery, a tire whisperer, and the kind of driver who could stretch a one-stop strategy farther than Marvel can stretch Robert Downey Jr.'s career. Then, 2020 happened. He caught COVID, missed 2 races, came back, and won the Sakir Grand Prix in a car that started dead last, all while knowing he's already lost his seat to Sebastian Vettel. Come on, that's a Lifetime movie plot. And yet, no one in the paddock picked him up, except Red Bull. Desperate for anyone who could survive more than 6 months next to Max, they broke their tradition of only promoting from within and signed Perez for 2021. He was supposed to have the experience, the stability, the wise veteran to Max's unstoppable wunderkind. And at first, it worked. He won in Baku, held off Hamilton in Abu Dhabi, played the wingman role like Goose in Top Gun. Checo is a legend, Max said on the radio.
Oh, Checo is a legend.
He earned the name the Mexican Minister of Defense, and for a moment, it looked like the second seat curse had been broken. But it wasn't. Perez's consistency started to waver. 2022 began strong. He was actually in the title fight after Monaco. But then came team orders. Pit stop favoritism, weird strategy calls, and, oh yeah, that one time Max straight up refused to let Checo back through in Brazil because of something that happened earlier in the year.
I told you already last time, you guys don't ask that again to me.
Something no one would elaborate on, but everyone remembers.
I gave my reasons, and I stand by it.
It was pure drama, with Perez stuck in the middle of a Verstappen family soap opera. That year, the smile started to crack. PR-wise, Checo has always been likable, charming, and adored by the Mexican fan base. He's a national hero. He's humble, a family man, and surprisingly funny in Spanish-language interviews. But at Red Bull, he started to feel more like a prop than a partner. Let's talk about that Christmas commercial. If you haven't seen it, Checo's in this awkward skit where he pours tequila while the whole team pretends to have Christmas spirit. It was the corporate version of please smile through the pain. Nothing screams you're totally not the B team like being the face of branded booze while Max is off testing sim rigs for fun.
This is bullshit.
And through it all, Perez still performed better than anyone expected. He racked up more points than Gasly or Albon ever managed. Checo managed to do something that Webber couldn't do during the Seb domination era. He's been second in the championship, won multiple races, and acted as a buffer between Max and the rest of the field. But still, every year, the rumors swirl.
I got a little something. I don't know if I should say.
Checo's not fast enough. They need someone new. Why not Lawson? Max likes a car that's twitchy, pointy, and borderline undrivable for anyone who doesn't brake like they've got a death wish. Checo likes a balanced rear end, smooth entries, and predictability. He doesn't get that. He gets a rocket ship with no training wheels, and he's expected to match Verstappen's lap times or be sacrificed to the algorithm gods. When Checo did speak up, when he dared say the car had issues,
You change your car because Checo has been saying the car is fucked. The driver has been going out. Speak to my drivers.
Everyone shrugged and pointed to Max. Well, Max is doing fine. Of course he is. He could probably win races in a shopping cart with lawnmower tires. Off track, Checo was tired. You could see it. The press conferences, the cautious words, the strained smiles. He's the longest lasting number 2 to Max, and whether that ever gets topped, he went out with his head high and a tequila bottle in hand. Because in the end, being the second driver at Red Bull isn't about beating Max. It's about surviving Max.
I guess in the end, it's about surviving. Any way you can.
Let's break out the tinfoil hats, because we're entering conspiracy territory now.
All a conspiracy.
Let's talk about the fastest firing in Red Bull history, Liam Lawson.
It was a good ride while it lasted. Come on, kids. Let's go home.
We are home.
That was fast.
The Kiwi kid who did everything right and still didn't get the seat. If the Red Bull second seat curse were a horror movie, Liam Lawson would be the poor bastard who walks into the haunted house, cleans it up, fixes the plumbing, redecorates the whole place, and still ends up getting dragged into the basement by a demon. Liam Lawson is what happens when talent and discipline shake hands. He didn't come into Formula One as a teenage prodigy with Netflix hype and sponsors from birth. He came from New Zealand, a country with more sheep than F1 cars, and clawed his way up through the racing ladder with raw pace and a professional attitude that made engineers fall in love and PR teams breathe easy.
Ableism, whatever the fuck. Oh, wheelchair people.
But here's the thing. Liam Lawson wasn't supposed to be in Formula One. At least, not when we look at 2023. He was chilling in Japan doing super Formula things, smoking people on technical tracks with a car that's damn near as fast as an F1 car. He was consistently outperforming expectations, picking up wins, and generally making Red Bull's other junior drivers look like they'd left the parking brake on. Then, Ri-KIKIKI-ardo breaks his hand in FP2 at Zandvoort, and boom, Lawson is in. Imagine being parachuted into your first F1 race, mid-season, in a car you didn't design a preseason testing plan for, and being told, by the way, it's raining and the track's drying. Good luck. Most drivers would have spun, or overdriven, or just sat there and prayed. But he closed his eyes, said, "I am Speed," and got the job done.
My name is Timothy. I'm Speed. Ooh, ah.
Thrown into a wet, unpredictable Dutch Grand Prix with zero prep and absolutely no pressure, Lawson kept it clean. He wasn't lighting up the timing sheets, but he didn't bin it either. That alone is a win for a Red Bull Junior debut. And then came Monza. Then Suzuka. And Suzuka was the moment. In what was arguably the hardest track in the calendar for a newcomer, and a car he still barely understood, Lawson outdrove his replacement, Tsunoda, who didn't finish, and, wait for it, Max Verstappen. He scored big points, his first career points, in just his third race. That result at Suzuka, Yuki's home region, in the most physically grueling race of the season, was supposed to be his star-making moment. He was clean, composed, professional, fast, and, maybe most importantly, quiet. No radio rants, no whining, no excuses, just speed. So, why didn't he get the seat?
I do not understand. What is the job exactly?
Right now the job is to wait here.
Despite outperforming expectations, despite scoring points in a worse car than Perez, and despite being arguably more composed under pressure than Tsunoda, Red Bull sent him back to the sidelines.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man. Shit, I'm saying.
They gave him a nice pat on the head and said, "You'll get your chance. Later." Instead, he became a trivia fact. The only driver to score points for AlphaTauri in 2023 who wasn't offered a race seat the next year. Because as long as Max is winning, nobody else really matters. Outside the paddock, Lawson was what PR teams dream of. Well-spoken, focused. He has a humble background and looks like a young Christian Bale doing an F1 biopic. Never puts a foot wrong. He's marketable, but not overwhelming. Charismatic, but not flashy. He makes sense. Lawson did everything right, and it didn't matter. He was once again a reserve driver come 2024.
You boys want to see something?
Do we have a choice?
No.
Where he got to race in the last 6 races of the season, following the unceremonious sacking of Danny Rick.
You're fired!
Here's where the second seat curse theory makes its most brutal appearance. It's 2025. Finally. Only took us 20 minutes of a woman yapping to get here. And Liam has done it. Wait, what? He's starting at Red Bull, second seat. Perez is out after underperforming, and Liam gets to show what he can do.
Lawson in the Navy Red Bull into the side of Jack Doohan. Those two have raced each other in the lower formula in the past, and that was elbows out.
He's desperate to show a bit of punchiness now, isn't he?
Oh, he had a power unit problem. No worries, next race is a new race, and he got 12th. Well, it's not the best, but let's see what comes next.
I had no idea in China. It was something that was decided, I guess, the Monday or Tuesday after.
Oh. Luckily for Liam, his demotion to Racing Bulls put him in a drivable car, and he's since scored more points than Yuki with solid pace. But that doesn't mean he escaped the curse completely unharmed. Liam may have a seat this season, but he's already said he's looking outside of Red Bull for his future, which he should.
No, you don't. You're fired.
All right, I'm going.
All right, you out the door with you, Joseph.
On the flip side, though, what team will see a driver with over 20 race starts, never a first seat, and 3 retirements, then be clamoring to sign him? We'll have to wait and see. From Honda's golden child to clawing for his career, Yuki Tsunoda burst onto the Formula One scene like a firecracker at a funeral. Loud, unpredictable, and kind of inappropriate. But damn if he didn't make things interesting. Buckle up, because the next chapter in the Red Bull second seat saga is a pint-sized samurai with a sailor's mouth and the patience of a hyperactive chihuahua. He was Japan's first-time F1 driver in years, and Honda's personal project. Handpicked and fast-tracked up the ladder thanks to a winning mix of speed, potential, and a sponsorship package that could buy an engine department.
What inspired you?
Money!
He lit up Formula 2 with late-season pace and podiums, and Helmut Marko decided, yes, that one. Put him in the AlphaTauri. Let's see what happens. And what happened was chaos. On track, Yuki was aggressive. Too aggressive. If he wasn't flying past someone on lap 1, he was flying off the track trying.
Let's have a look at this from the trackside view. Big speed.
His radio rants were legendary from day one. Every team broadcast sounded like a Call of Duty lobby at 2 a.m. in 2009.
Yeah, shut up! Are you trying to crush me or what? These guys are fucking retarded.
Imagine Kimi Räikkönen, but higher pitched, more emotional, and with a vocabulary curated by Quentin Tarantino.
Hey, fuck this shit, I'm jerking off.
And yet, under all the yelling was talent. Raw, unpolished, fast as hell talent. By his second year, Yuki had calmed down a bit. Not completely. He still dropped enough F-bombs to get bleeped out of half the Netflix documentary, but he started putting in the work. He moved to Italy to be closer to the team, got serious about fitness, and became a genuinely valuable asset to AlphaTauri. Off track, he's actually kind of adorable. He's weirdly obsessed with food, anime, and muscle cars, and he treats his race engineer like a mildly annoying big brother.
I want to use my front.
We don't want to.
Well, I want to.
Okay, do what you need to do.
His friendship with Pierre Gasly became one of the best bromances on the grid. Fans love him, the team likes him, and then Honda bailed. Sort of. The engine division stuck around as a ghost partner, but their future involvement with Red Bull powertrains started looking shakier than Tsunoda's throttle control in a rain race. In 2023, Honda announced they'd be partnering with Aston Martin from 2026. And that's when things got awkward. Suddenly, Yuki was no longer the Honda guy. He was just a guy. A guy now expected to earn his seat the same way everyone else did. Which, to be fair, was something he wanted. He's spoken multiple times about wanting to prove himself beyond Honda's support. And he kinda did. He outqualified his teammates, scored the lion's share of AlphaTauri's points, dragged a midfield car into Q3 more times than anyone expected, and yet still no promotion. No second seat. Why? Instead, they told him to hang tight. Keep proving himself. He watched Nick de Vries come and go like a ghost.
I am a little bit more experienced.
Watched Daniil Ricciardo jump in, break his hand, and still get more press coverage than him. Watched Liam Lawson drop into his car, beat his best result at his home race in Suzuka, and almost take his job. And Yuki? He just kept going. He got the memo that his mouth had soured some fans' opinion of him and really cleaned up the act. He doubled down on adorable dude vibes and kept improving his pace. Finally, it seemed to be paying off and getting him that coveted seat. But does he know of the curse awaiting him?
Not gonna lose to some stupid ghost.
2025 came along and Red Bull swapped Yuki and Lawson for the top team seat because if your top team car is going to finish outside the points in Suzuka, it might as well be the driver's home race as well.
Yuki Tsunoda has been given that second Red Bull racing seat.
Since then, he's had one DNF and only finished in the bottom of the points 3 times. The other RB seat, obviously, has had 5 podiums this year. Just like Checo, when Yuki says the car isn't working, the team shrugs and points at Max.
Yeah, and see, that's what the problem was. Because I heard him first, I said, hold on. I said, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
Well, Max is doing fine. Yeah, of course Max is doing fine, because Max could probably win a Grand Prix on an e-scooter. The team's already floated the idea that Honda won't intervene in his future past this year. That means no more Japanese safety net. And if Red Bull isn't interested in keeping him around, and Honda won't push for a seat at Aston Martin, where does Yuki go? It's a heartbreaking position, because the guy cares. He trains hard. He's improved dramatically. He's become a fan favorite. But improvement isn't always enough. Not at Red Bull. Not in a seat where your teammate can win races in a car you barely keep out of Q2. So now, with Honda's lifeline gone and the next generation of Red Bull juniors knocking at the door, Yuki's future is on a knife's edge.
You think that of me? No. I am the one who knocks.
He deserves more. But in the world of Red Bull, merit has a very short memory.
What do you do? Just forget stuff like a cool person.
Let's clear the air about something right now.
see Max Verstappen overtaking Nick.
The car isn't neutral, but it's not built for Max either. Back in the day, when people watched Ayrton Senna race, they said he could make the car do things that seemed impossible. He danced on the edge of grip. Max Verstappen is the exact same way, except instead of being limited by the technology in the car is limited in that it has followed a wrong design philosophy or has a foundational issue built into it. This means that any driver that hopped into the car is going to get suboptimal lap times. Max has realized he can overcome this by giving the car a setup where it's so aggressive and on edge that he's able to extract faster times. But it means if he makes a mistake, the car will be lost very easily. People don't understand this because Max can consistently go so long without making those mistakes that for a human being are easy to make. So without further ado, I'd like to turn the spotlight on to the bosses who keep this haunted carousel spinning. Christian Horner and Helmut Marko. One's a PR nightmare in designer loafers. The other is a Bond villain who forgot which Cold War we're in. Buckle up. Let's start with Mr. Spice Boy himself, Christian Horner. A man who's managed to survive 20 years of F1 politics, team upheavals, and literal engine wars, while somehow making time to star in his own reality TV subplot on Drive to Survive.
You're not portraying me as the villain this year?
When's that happen?
Seasons 1 to 6.
Look, on paper, Horner is one of the most successful team principals in Formula One history. He's taken Red Bull from a glorified energy drink experiment to one of the most dominant forces in the sport. 4 consecutive championships with Vettel, a seemingly endless Verstappen juggernaut. The man knows how to build a winning machine. But here's the thing, he doesn't know how to build a second driver. At all.
Second's not part of the plan.
In fact, it's almost like he doesn't care to.
There are no number one drivers here.
Christian Horner is the kind of boss who says all the right things on camera. He talks about how difficult the second seat is, how they believe in their drivers, how there's a process to it all. And then behind closed doors, it's Game of Thrones, but with more monster energy.
Who drinks the most Red Bull? Yeah, just straight on the list. I've never seen somebody drink so much Red Bull.
It's empty, Your Grace. So get more.
When you listen to his radio calls or interviews, you realize the man has a very tight leash on the narrative. He wants to protect Max at all costs.
You know, safe, slow vehicle, good starter car.
A starter car?
That's right.
I shall unleash my fury upon you like the crashing of 1,000 waves! Begone, vile man, begone from me! A starter car! This car is a finisher car! A transporter of gods! The Golden God!
Fair enough, Max is generational. But he also throws his second drivers under the bus quicker than he throws on a tag watch to match the little top left ad on his shoulder.
You've got a problem, change your fucking car.
Then you change your car because Checo has been saying the car is fucked and your driver has been going.
Need proof? He's had 9 driver changes since 2016. 9. And that's not just the turnover, it's the way it's handled. Silent sackings, sudden demotions, total lack of public support. When Ri-KIKIKI-ardo left in 2018, Horner was asked if he was disappointed. His response? He probably just wanted to run away from Max. Ouch. When Albon was struggling, Christian said he just needs to perform. No real support. When Gasly was floundering in 2019, Horner didn't go public with any specific vote of confidence. Instead, he announced Alex Albon was replacing him during the summer break, without even letting Gasly finish the season. But maybe worst of all, when Ri-KIKIKI-ardo came back to Red Bull, Horner hyped him up like he was the second coming. And then after Ri-KIKIKI-ardo broke his hand and Lawson shined, Horner went silent, completely iced out Lawson's performances. Let Ri-KIKIKI-ardo hop back in like nothing happened. The result is clear. Horner isn't managing drivers, he's managing optics. Christian isn't just a team principal, he's the Red Bull brand ambassador. And right now, Max is the brand. The second seat? That's just a brand liability. And Horner's been distracted, let's say. Allegations, HR investigations, leaked messages, tabloid-level saucy stories. Whether you believe the scandal or not, it's undeniable the guy has had one foot off the throttle all year. And when the boss is caught up defending his reputation, the garage turns to chaos. You think that's helping the second seat situation?
No.
It's like a ship where only the golden child gets a life jacket and the second seat's just there to hold the bucket.
Please, the life preservers.
Aiden,
My name is Dr. Marko. I am from Red Bull.
The man who writes the driver lineup in blood, sweat, and slurs.
You used the slur, dude!
Dr. Helmut Marko. Equal parts Sith Lord, talent scout, and Bond villain. If you thought Horner was harsh, get ready.
And the beatings will continue until morale improves.
If Christian Horner is Red Bull's version of the polished, PR-friendly frontman, then Helmut Marko is the shadowy old wizard in the tower who decides which young driver gets sacrificed next. Helmut Marko doesn't blink. He doesn't coddle. He doesn't believe in second chances. What he believes in is performance.
And from a BMW at the time, and he just, oh, so you're quite useless on the wet, and just hang up on me.
Immediate, ruthless, no time for growth performance. And if you don't deliver, you're not demoted, you're discarded.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
Let's rewind a little bit. Dr. Helmut Marko, yes, he's an actual doctor, was a racing driver himself who had real pace in his day until a rock shattered his helmet visor during the 1972 French Grand Prix and blinded him in one eye. That kind of career-ending trauma turns you into one of two people, a mentor with deep empathy or a cold-blooded executioner of potential. Guess which one he took.
Far from easy to win that race. Yeah, we had a terrible start.
Since forming the Red Bull Junior team in the early 2000s, Marko has overseen the careers of every Red Bull driver, from Vettel to Verstappen to whoever just got dropped while I was reading this sentence. He's brilliant at spotting raw talent. He found Vettel when he was still a teenager, and he plucked Verstappen out of F3 with less than 50 single-seater races under his belt. He's built a reputation as a talent whisperer, a godfather of speed. But here's the problem. He doesn't build drivers, he breaks them. Marko sees F1 like a firing squad lineup. One shot, if you flinch, you're done.
Good soldiers follow orders.
Take Pierre Gasly. After a few rocky races in 2019, Helmut apparently pulled the plug without a second thought. According to insiders, Gasly found out about his demotion in the media before Red Bull even called. No meeting, no conversation, just a handshake and the trap door. Or Albon. When he struggled in 2020, Marko offered no public support, only vague, he knows what he needs to do statements. Albon wasn't even told about his full drop until after the season. He was replaced by Perez and made a reserve without so much as a proper send-off. Cold.
You stone cold bitch!
And then there's Liam Lawson. The guy literally filled in mid-season, punched above his weight, scored points, and looked sharp doing it. His reward? A thank you and a return to the simulator. Marko said he still needs development, which, coming from Helmut, might as well be a death sentence.
Certain death! Certain death!
He's never wrong. That's the Helmut rule. Even when the second seat fails again and again, it's not the seat's fault, it's the driver. They didn't have the pace, or the mental strength, or they couldn't handle the pressure. Sound familiar? It's not that Helmut's expectations are unrealistic. It's that he doesn't care if they are. He's not here to nurture. He's here to separate the elite from the expendable. And that's why the Red Bull second seat curse lives on. Because when your developmental strategy is be perfect or be gone, you don't create a team, you create a trauma ward.
You're traumatizing them.
The curse's origin may be in the air, but we all know how to fix it. Get rid of these two.
I hope you're enjoying your flight.
News hit that Marko recently spoke with Vettel about a return in an advisory role, which is wild because if there's one driver who famously learned more after leaving Red Bull, it's Seb. If they're hoping to bring him in as a moral compass for the talent graveyard, it might be a little too late.
It's too late.
This career-eating race machine has no heart. Helmut Marko is still calling the shots, and as long as he's around, that second seat isn't a promotion. If you're a rising F1 star and Helmut Marko calls you, maybe let it go to voicemail. If Horner's hyping you up on Drive to Survive, it's probably a setup. And if you're eyeing that second Red Bull seat like it's a dream job, run. Because Red Bull Racing is built around one man, one name, one freakishly talented Dutch Terminator. And until the day Verstappen retires or races his way into a parallel dimension, that second seat will never be for an equal. It will be a revolving door of hype, heartbreak, and tequila commercials. Kvyat, Gasly, Albon, Ri-KIKIKI-ardo, Lawson, Tsunoda, Perez. You could be faster than half the grid and still be eaten alive if you don't mold yourself into a perfect max-compatible support act. And even that might not be enough.
It was still not enough.
This isn't just a cursed seat, it's a lesson in how not to run a two-car team. Next time you dream about driving for Red Bull, ask yourself, are you sure you want to be next to Max? Because sitting in that second seat means you're only one race away from being replaced. Or worse, forgotten. Like, subscribe, and don't take that seat. Ever. Done! Done, done, done! That one was forever.